Thock, one of the most popular sound profiles of custom keyboards. I recently did a video on building the thockiest keyboard I could, and that video did really well. But you know, Thock, Thocky, these are terms that you see it on titles, you see it on thumbnails, you might even see it on TikTok. And that's all basically keyboard brain rot for sound profiles. So in today's video, I'll be exploring 3 different sound profiles, maybe more like 2.5 or maybe 2.25. You get what I mean at the end of the video. The most popular one, of course, Thock. I already covered this with a whole video, but there are a few new switches that you guys have mentioned and commented, and a few switches that I have found as well that I do want to try and see if I can crown a new switch instead of the Y3s. And then we have Clack, a really popular sound in the current market. And for our final one, Creamy. Creamy, personally, I feel like is one of the worst descriptions for a keyboard. Thock and Clack is a literal sound description of how the keyboard sounds. But Creamy is purely describing it as creamy, which you can't really tell what that is. It's just more of a personal take on what a keyboard sounds like if it's creamy. I have 11 switches with me today, all sent over by KTax, so shout out KTax, I'll have everything for them linked down below. So without further ado, let's get started on Thock. And before we start, actually, if you haven't seen the Thockiest video, please go and check it out before you continue with this, so that you can be caught up with speed. But here's a quick refresher or breakdown for those who forgot. Thock is a sound profile that YouTube loves. It's usually built with as much foam as possible, and with the right switches you can get it to sound really deep. Previously, I went through about 20 switches and crowned the KeyGeek Y3s the king of deep sounding switches. But today I have with me 4 different switches to compete for that name. Some recommended from comments and some recommended by KTax themselves. So let's see whether they stand a chance. So the 4 different switches: the Princess V4 Tactiles, the Princess Ultra Thock Linear switches, KTT Kang Whites, and the ones I have the highest hopes for, the KeyGeek Y2s. These Y2s have been mentioned in comments a couple of times and also recommended by KTax themselves. So I have very high expectations for the Y2s. For today's video, I'll be using the Evo 75. It's a pre-built board. By default, already sounds pretty deep, so I thought this would be a good comparison for which switches would play a huge part in creating a deep sounding profile. So here's the comparison between all of these switches. Among all of these, it's safe to say the Y2s has taken the crown. The Y3s are behind me now. I'm all about the Y2s now. Switching up on my day ones. The sound profile of the Y2s are really deep, and I haven't even tried them with ceramic keycaps. I'll probably do a YouTube shot on the Y2s along with a typing test with ceramic keycaps. The Y3s, I would say, is a safe runner-up. The Y3s in general still do sound really deep, followed by the MMD Princess, be it the V4 or the Ultra Thock. The MMD Princess V-Force do feel pretty nice. They are a tactile switch and I haven't used a tactile switch in a while. They do make the stabilizers sound a little better. Tactile switches in general just hide any sort of rattling just much better. But the KTT Kang Whites, these switches have been around for a really long time and I don't think it can stand up to these newer generation switches. It has a slight scratch, you might need to lube them. So if you have the extra budget, I would recommend going for any of the other 4 switches than the KTT Kang Whites. Next, Clack. Clack is a lighter sound profile, the complete opposite of Thock. Now, what I am about to say is just my opinion and based on stories or just experiences that I've heard from you guys. Usually, enthusiasts go down this path to liking Clack. They start out with a custom keyboard fully foamed up and they like it. It's that usual Thocky sound profile that I was talking about. But as time passes, they start to configure with their boards, play around with the foam configuration, play around with different switches, and then they slowly start to not like Thock. They usually say that keyboards with foam all sound the same and they sound really mundane and dead. So that's where they slowly transition to foamless builds, and foamless builds come along with clacky switches and create a very clacky, very bright, very light sounding profile. But Clack is easy to achieve but really hard to get it right. Clack is very dependent on the keyboard kit themselves. If you want a clean Clack without any hollowness and without any rattle, I would say, then the keyboard kit you choose has to have certain features implemented into our case or our PCB or our plate to make it sound good. So some of the key things in a keyboard kit to handle a foamless build, or at least preferred to before you do a foamless build. Number 1 is our plate. What we want is a sturdy plate, be it carbon fiber, aluminum, brass or copper. These plates just do better without any foam. No, they do not. These plates do better because they can handle foamless builds. When you don't use plate foam, a sturdier plate just helps, you know? It's
say he wanted to get his jung down juggler snack up at it and fuck with my nut on C's.
Secondly, our PCB is preferred to not have any flex cuts. Flex cuts are typically wanted for foamed up builds because having flex cuts do somehow alter your sound profile. I'm pretty sure Scott, the keyboard guy, he probably has a video explaining on a more technical term on how flex cuts actually do affect sound, but it's not in my brain right now. But the most important thing about the keyboard kit has to be the case. The case itself has to have some sort of an acoustic chamber or maybe internal weights. Having a denser, heavier case just removes that hollowness, I would say. And the keyboard that I have with me that has fulfilled all these features are the Neo 65 Core Plus, a board I reviewed recently. Check it out, full review somewhere up there.
Hello there.
Now for switches, today I have 5 different switches that I would say are towards the clackier, lighter sound profile. So we have the HMX Caramel, HMX Nap, HMX Swift, HMX SU, and Keygig Sarah. As you can tell, the switches typically consist of HMX switches because the sound profile that HMX switches tend to give off is just a clackier, lighter sound profile. So here's the sound comparison. Literally the complete opposite of what we just heard from Thock. And in terms of clackiest, I would say either the Keygig Sarah or the HMX Swift is the clackiest. But clacky is all about achieving something that you like to hear, because that's what's most important. So if you are trying to experiment with clackier builds, I don't think you should go around chasing for the clackiest build. Just go around chasing for what you think you would like. Just experiment with different switches. Maybe you don't want a completely foamless build, maybe you want a piece of case foam in there. The more you listen to different sound tests online and realize how different boards sound, even with the same switches, it's pretty interesting. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about Creamy.
Oh, yeah.
Creamy is to me, a really gray area. Unlike Clack and Thock, which is a literal description to the sound, like clacky, thocky, you can hear that sound. But creamy, I feel like is a secondary description of how a bot sounds. You would say it has creamy clacks or creamy thocks, to me at least. And everyone has their different interpretation of creamy. Why couldn't I say interpretation? What the hell? Now, how do you achieve creamy? Creamy in the first place just involves PE foam. PE foam just creates this marbly creamy sound. So that's what I'll be using with the Evo 75. Everything just as it is, the exact same setup as our Thocky build. Now for switches, I'm pretty sure you guys have probably heard the phrase a lot from other creators or maybe myself as a creamy switch. But today I have with me the B-Sun Strawberries and Gadron Smoothies. I think these two switches actually somewhat create that creamy sound profile. So here's how they sound. Do you see what I mean when I don't know how to describe creamy? Creamy isn't exactly like Thock either. Like if you're comparing the exact same setup in an Evo 75 just with different switches, the switches with the B-Sun Strawberries sounded creamy, but with Thock, it's just deep sounding switches. This is such a hard topic. But I hope this video did help you understand better on sound profiles of custom keyboards. The three, I wouldn't say three, 2.5 sound profiles, Thock, Clack, creamy is, you know. And at the end of the day, just a little reminder that boards that you build for yourself are meant to be used by you. So whatever sound profile you like, just build it. Just don't give a shit about what anyone says, you know. Let me know other sound profiles that you would want me to explore. Comment them down below. Aside from that, like this video if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.